understand the best way of businesses to be able to conduct themselves and be able to carry out their activities without malice to their customers. We begin by defining or an introduction of this particular module. We are saying that for us to be able to have a great environment, a product needs to be ethical, or a business needs to be ethical. And being ethical means we need to be able to do everything right for our customers to be able to enjoy our products. So we need to practice ethics, for example, in regards to data protection, in regards to prioritizing customer needs, in regards to having workplace diversities for our employees, and also what we call whistleblower protection. And when you are doing all these things, the end goal or the end result is to be able to maintain a company's image. So companies have developed ethical guidelines that are going to assist them to ensure that they carry themselves in a ethical manner, in a manner that pleases the clients, in a manner that builds the credibility of the organization, and in a manner that enables customers and clients to be able to build trust in their products. So we have what we call business ethics. The definition, we are saying that there are a set of policies and procedures that govern how a business conducts its activities and guides it on what is morally right or wrong. So ethics simply is about the set of procedures we develop as a business that are going to ensure that as we continue to execute our activities, then we are guided by this code of ethics that ensure that we are doing everything that is morally right and avoid anything that is morally wrong. We are going to be seeing examples of those activities that we would be able to deem unethical. The features of business ethics is our next discussion. When we talk about business ethics, then number one, businesses, organizations need to develop what we call a code of ethics. And a code of ethics, like we are saying, they are just set of rules that govern how a business operates and conducts activities. And this code of ethics is very, very important for every business to have that kind of a document. We have, for example, the WHO has a code of ethics that talks about the organization observing the pillars of integrity, the organization also being accountable, and the organization also practicing independence and impartiality, and also the aspect of respect is well captured in the code of ethics of the World Health Organization or the WHO. So these are documents that you can be able to access depending on the organization that you are looking at. Even as you interact with this video, you can be able now to look for other samples of code of ethics that are meant to guide businesses and set clear goals. For example, for WHO, when they talk about integrity, on the key areas that they highlight under their integrity pillar is to ensure that there is a strict adherence and observance and respect of local laws, and also we need also they emphasize on the need of their staff their employees to avoid any physical and verbal abuse with their clients. And also, based on the accountability pillar for the WHO, they emphasize on the need to individuals to take responsibility for the duties, for the activities or whatever work that they do. Another feature of business ethics is it is based on social and moral values. So it offers the upright way of how businesses should be run. So business ethics simply look at the right direction that businesses need to take. Right direction to mean that what are those good things that we need to do that are going to assist us as a business to be able to safeguard our image, to safeguard our products, and also to protect the name of the business, which is critical towards ensuring that businesses continue to thrive. We have what we call the principles of business ethics. When we talk about principles, we are talking about guidelines of what we need to do as organizations to ensure we have business ethics. Number one is to avoid customer exploitation. And one way that companies can be able to exploit customers is through price exploitation. So we need to do away with uh, any kind of exploitation. Price exploitation means, for example, when you overcharge your customers way above the set market rates for that particular product or service, that would be termed as unethical. So that's why we are saying we avoid it where possible. The other one is ensure regular payment of taxes. So in line with what WHO are saying in terms of integrity, part of being practicing integrity for all organizations is to ensure they are remitting their taxes, they are paying their taxes on time, and that takes the organization into respecting a country's taxation laws. And then we have ensure equality and fair treatment of employees. So all employees across board within the organization should be fairly treated. Fair treatment means we need to have equal payment of salaries, equal distribution of organization work, and avoid exploiting people based on their religion, based on their color, and so on and so forth. So the principles are the rules that we need to observe in order to respect or to adhere to what we refer to as business ethics. And then from there we have what we call unethical behavior. And we are saying this is that which is not morally right or what is illegal. So when we are practicing anything contrary to the principles that we have just discussed, then we usually say that those are unethical practices, unethical behaviors. And examples of those unethical behaviors would be false product claims, where you take responsibility of a product and you are not the one who has been able to manufacture that product. The other one is what we call hidden terms of user agreements. Companies should be able to avoid those unethical practices, issues to do with sexual harassment, issues of encouraging bribery. All those are unethical practices. So unethical means unwanted behaviors that companies would engage themselves in. Of course, the consequences would be affecting their image. The consequences would be affecting the consumption of their products, and so on and so forth. We have what we call the causes of unethical behavior. Why do companies engage in unethical behaviors. Number one is poor management of company time. So you have time at your disposal to be able to execute certain tasks, but because of things like procrastination, uh, you end up wasting time. And then, for example, if we are expecting auditors to come, then because we have not compiled our documents on time, then we begin to do forgeries. We begin to rush everything so that we portray ourselves as an organization that is doing very well, whereas in the real sense, it is the practice of unethical behaviors. We are going to see those practices now specifically for different departments and what those departments do. The other one is another issue that causes unethical behavior is harassment and discrimination. So we can have that among organizations where employees are harassed, they are discriminated based on their religion, they are discriminated based on their culture or their color, their skin color, and that will automatically not be able to end well for the organization. We have had organizations in countries, for example, in Kenya recently there was an expose on how uh, tea companies, the leaders in these tea companies, are taking advantage of women, and for them to be able to be employed in that sector, then they have to offer them their bodies, and that of course did not portray the companies, the management in a very good way. And we have these things escalating. We have people that get discriminated because of their disabilities, and those are unethical practices that we cannot be able to continue to condone in organizations. Then we have failure to meet contractual obligations on employees. For example, failure to meet your salary obligations as an employer, that is deemed unethical. And of course, there must be suggestions on how to solve those kind of issues when they occur. But it should not be done intentionally in the name of punishing employees. Yeah, so everybody, like what we are guided by the employment laws, have their role to play. The employer has a role to play, the employee has a role to play. So if everybody is meeting their duties and obligations, then we can say that those are ethical practices that that organization would be engaged in. But if an employee, for example, is fully committed into executing their roles, and then you end up not paying their salaries promptly, then that would be deemed unethical behavior. Also, in terms of uh, unsanctioned or unplanned deductions on their salaries, those are directions that business ethics will tell us to avoid, because they are going to bring conflict, they are going to affect the organization's image, they are going to affect the productivity of the staff, and so on and so forth. And the other one is misleading customers. Another issue that contributes to unethical behavior is when we mislead customers, even in terms of our pricing, when we have hidden cost on our products, in terms of the usage of the product, we do not give the actual information that is required. And all that is going to put the organization in a lot of trouble, and it affects customer loyalty, it affects customer commitment into regular purchasing that item. And therefore, these unethical practices are things that we need to try and at least avoid in our organizations. We look at the unethical practices now as per different departments within the organization. The departments are also what we are calling functional areas. So functional unethical behavior would be departmental or unethical behaviors in different departments. For example, in the sales department, we would have a failure to accept responsibility for defective products. Sometimes we have defective products and customers would be bringing these products back to us. So it is not right not to accept responsibility, and you are very sure that that defect might have occurred within your organizational productive processes. The other one is failure to notify the customer when a product specification changes. There are those customers who really rely on product specification. They are keen on that. So when you change those specifications, for example, for consumable items, for example, drugs, for example, food items, someone is consuming an item X because of the specifications that are in that item. So when those specifications change, it is ethically right to be able to communicate that information to customers in order for them to be able to understand and make a decision on whether to continue using the product or not. The other one is a delay in delivery of goods. This is a major issue, a major unethical issue, especially for companies that allow customers to do pre-ordering of goods. You pre-order a good and you end up waiting for so long to be able to receive that good. And that is something that we really should be able to avoid. Because it is unethical, it is going to dent the image of the business, it is going to dent the company's name, it is going to affect the flow of customers, because no one wants to go to that business that has their name put in the public in the wrong way. The other one is failure to give details of hidden costs, for example, transport costs. So any extra costs that would come with a good, with a service, it is ethically right to put these up so that as the customer makes a decision on whether to take up the good or service, they can be able to fully budget for the good or service. We have in the advertising and promotion department, what are some of the activities that we would be able to deem unethical? For example, number one is false information about product benefits. This is very common in consumables, the drugs that we consume. Somebody would be marketing, for example, even herbal products and indicating that once you consume this drug, these are the benefits that you are going to derive from it, but you end up not experiencing any of those benefits that has been put forward. So it means that person was just doing that so that they can be able to make sales, but practically the product is not able to offer those kind of benefits. The other one is delivering products different from those advertised. This is also another major unethical practice that companies are very good in portraying a very nice image of their product. But once you receive it, then you realize it is completely different. This is very common also in online sales, where the kind of images that are being put on the products, they are quite enticing. They look very nice. But at the end of the day, once you order and receive the product, you may tend to think that it is a completely different kind of product from what you ordered. And number three is not disclosing major flaws of the product. Sometimes companies are manufacturing defective products, for example, electronics. Yeah, but because they have invested money in the production, they decide now it is defective, but let us release it to the market without minding what the customers are going to say. So that's why you see once you use some of these electronics, in a few months or in a few weeks, they break down. Maybe because of a flaw that was not communicated early in advance. It is the same case when somebody is buying a used car. Uh, Very rare cases will the person who has been using the car that are going to tell you that this engine is defective. They will just portray the good side of the car, and you end up buying only for you to realize as you begin to use it that it has so many other issues. Yeah, so those unethical practices, we are emphasizing that we need to avoid them because they are going to put us into uh, public relations, image related issues. And finally is a false reference to customers' products. So those are some of the unethical behaviors in the advertising and promotion. I believe whatever has been captured here is not exhaustive, so you can be able to look at other examples in line with unethical practices within the advertising and promotion department. And then we have some of the unethical practices in the human resource department. Is number one, not providing fair wages and salaries. Organizations know the market rates of salaries and wages, but they do not give that info or that payment to their staff. So that is an ethical practice, and employees have their own way of getting to know the market rates, and that's why you will see employees leaving an organization to other organizations because they realize the management has been treating us unethically by paying us wages that are not commensurate with the market rates. And number two, another unethical practice is not providing good working conditions. So unfavorable working conditions, if it is an environment where uh, employees are prone to injuries, then and the organization does not provide protective clothing, gumboots, aprons, gloves, and those other things that would be deemed to be unethical. And in the market, you will find companies that are feeling that this is an extra cost and they are unwilling to invest in it. And then we have unfair and unjust employee evaluation. When it comes to things to do with performance appraisal, uh, giving appropriate feedback to employees, you realize that there is some element of unfairness, some element of biasness based on the relationship that you have with this particular staff or employee. Now, when we practice business ethics, we are bound as an organization to receive certain benefits. Number one is you get to enjoy what we call better brand recognition. So your brand is better known to the public because you are giving the best to your customers. You are giving the best to your employees. So they will always speak positively about the company. They will always speak positively about the brand. And number two is customer retention. So if you are doing everything right, if you are conducting yourself in an ethical manner, you are bound to continue to retain employees or customers in the organization, and this enables you to be able to continue to sell and push your product. The other one is attract highly qualified human resource. So you're able to attract the best that we would have in terms of employees. You are able to build investor confidence, and you are also able to, customers are able to gain trust in your products and services. Where do we develop business ethics? Where do we learn to offer the best practices in the market? Number one, we can look at the organizational culture from the founders, the history of the organization, what have they been doing in terms of integrity, in terms of accountability, in terms of independence and impartiality, in terms of respect. We can look at the history of the organization in relation to those among other uh, pillars of business ethics. And then we have personal ethics, beliefs, and values. So that will, of course, be coined by the leaders, the managers in the business. The other one is external stakeholders, government regulations. So what is the government doing in terms of regulations? Regulating the industry that you are in, regulating the market forces, also market forces within that particular industry would also help us to develop prudent business ethics. We have something we call ethical dilemma. This is when you are torn between either to do right or wrong. So you are conflicted in terms of choices. So for example, an example of an ethical dilemma is where you need to take credit for others' work. We have the contributors to ethical problems in organizations. Some of them would be failure of personal character, conflict of personal values and company goals. So your values and company goals are having a mismatch. So we end up having ethical challenges and ethical problems in that line. And then also the aspect of personal beliefs and company practices also, when they differ, they contribute to dilemmas that would lead to unethical practices in the organization. Removing ethical dilemmas in business, what do we need to do so that we are not conflicted in whether we have to do it right or wrong? Number one, we need to establish a code of conduct for employees. I have highlighted that when I was giving an example of the WHO code of ethics. So we need to develop that for all the organizations. This would stipulate how our pillars in terms of ethics would be protected. If we are talking about accountability, if we are talking about impartiality, and so on and so forth. And then the other one is effective communication with employees. So we need to ensure effective communication. So remind employees, notify employees of what is ethical for them to be able to do. And number two, which I've skipped, reward ethical employees. So those that are ethically behaving well, those that are conducting themselves in an ethical manner, you can be able to reward them and ensure that they feel appreciated for the work that they have been able to do. Of course, we have said the end goal is to be able to ensure the image of the business is protected, the name of the business is protected. So whoever is doing everything right to ensure the image is protected, you can come up with the rewards to appreciate them. And the other one is create an ethical working environment. So create an environment of accountability within the workplace, create an environment of respect, because if there is no respect between employees and the management, there's no way you expect that is going to translate to respect between employees and customers. So what kind of an environment are we creating within ourselves to ensure ethical practices are observed? Managers will need what we call ethical principles to guide them. And what are some of the things that they need to do? Number one, they need to abide by the country's laws. So they need to ensure that they are abiding by all the laws of the land. Number two, they need to ensure they are committed to excellence, ensuring that everything that they intend to perform is for them to be able to excel and for the organization to be able to excel. And the other one is ensuring fairness. We mentioned about that, equality, the aspect of honesty. They need to ensure that it is practiced, and also the aspect of the pillar of accountability. It's really a major principle that should be able to guide all the managers. So that will bring us to the end of the first topic on the introduction. I believe that you've been able to learn something, and I invite you to look at what organizations are doing in terms of developing code of ethics. I have mentioned the code of ethics for WHO. Maybe you can look for the organization that you work for. What does their code of ethics look like? And by combining that knowledge, you will be able to learn more in regards to the discussion.